Hi, I'm Gary Marco.
I'm Jason Mahr.
This is my trusty, what would we call it? Second
Friend.
friend.
Yeah.
Yes, friend.
Yeah.
Jason Mahr. You're tuning into myfreedomjourney.com's podcast, and today's topic, we'd like to talk about this nasty little thing called the victim mentality.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Oh, it's a big one. You know, people don't like to hear it, but it's one of the bigger steps that you can take to get from being stuck to on your road to recovery.
Mm-hmm. So how would you define victim mentality?
It's assigning the power of recovery to someone else. And I'll give you just an easy example. After my divorce, I was sitting with a counselor. I was talking to this counselor, and I told her, I go, you know what? I just don't think I can recover from this until my ex admits to having an affair. And she looked at me and she goes, really? So you're going to put your recovery process on hold until you get something from the other person. Right? So me being the victim, I can't move forward until, someone releases me. And she said, no, you've got to take control of this. You control your own recovery. If you recover and get better, if she admits to it at some point, that's just going to be a cherry on top of the cake. Mm-hmm. But it's not a dependent event for that to happen.
Right.
So I was playing the victim. I can't do this unless, so... We've all done it at some time. It's a key thing to move through, to move forward and get some personal growth. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's a lot of the I am statements that happen in the midst of this because, and again, in the ministry world where I spend a lot of time, we deal with people that are just stuck. Maybe they've made a profession of faith or they're they've attended church their entire life and they're just not moving forward in their life. You can just tell they're just kind of stuck mentally. They're stuck where they are. You have conversations with those type of people and they will admit that they are in that place, but it's not because of them, it's because of other people.
Right.
They've been hurt because so-and-so said this about me, and I am this way because maybe my dad abused me or my mom abused me, and all of those things are painful. We're not making light of all of those things because we've talked about our family lives and we've talked about our upbringing and we've all had pain in that way. But I will never ever be able to blame the behavior that I have been in or the things that I've struggled with. I can't blame those things on my dad or my mom because those are my choices.
Right.
Regardless of how they treated me, I made those choices. And as soon as we get to the place where we can go, okay, it is me, I did do it, then you can start moving forward. And when you let go of anger, like one of the biggest statements people will make is, that person made me angry. They made me. And the truth is, and you shared this with me when we were meeting, was nobody can make you do anything. Nobody can make you be, they can't make you happy. They can't make you sad. They can't make you angry.
Or make you feel guilty.
No, you choose that.
Yeah.
So every bit of anger that we feel or guilt that we feel is what we choose to feel. So if somebody lobs a sarcastic comment at me and I think, oh man, that was kind of hurtful, it's because I'm allowing that in my space and I don't have to.
Right. You can deflect that for sure.
And so I've spent a lot of time talking to people they sit squarely in the victim seat. For them is a lazy boy sofa. I mean, it is so comfortable. They're in that seat and they do not want to. They're reclining in the victim seat. They love the victim seat because as long as they're in the victim seat, they can blame everybody else for their problems and never take responsibility. Now, when you take responsibility for your problems, that means you got some work to do.
Right.
When you don't take responsibility and you blame on everybody else, you can be lazy.
Yeah. You can sit around and do nothing.
Yeah.
And, this conversation is just reminding me of the thousands of victim stories I have. One funny one was the first big golf tournament I played in. And I won't go into all the detail, but I was right up on the tee. I was about ready to hit my shot, and over the loudspeaker, the announcer said, "On the first tee, golf professional Gary Marco." And he said it just as I took the club back to start my backswing. So I stopped and I looked at him and I gave him this really mean look. And over the loudspeaker, he went, "Sorry about that." Like this. So everyone was laughing. Well, what do? But I get up and hit a horrible first shot. And guess what I did? I blamed the announcer for the bad shot. Now, last time I checked, he never picked up my golf club or hit my golf ball.
Yeah.
I had all the time in the world to collect myself and not think about what just happened. But guess what? I hit the bad shot.
Yeah.
So this is just another example of victim mentality.
So you would say that bad golf shot was the fruit of something going on inside of your heart. I mentioned that last time, and when we talk about your behavior being the fruit of what your issue is, we're talking about, you picture it like a tree.
Right.
What you're rooted in is the tree's rooted in the ground and it bears fruit. And some of the time we can, if we focus so much on what the behavior is, we ignore the fact that, if we would just dig down and get to the root, all the fruit would go away.
Yeah.
So you're essentially, the bad behavior is like bad fruit
Right.
on a tree, and sometimes that tree's got to go.
Right.
So instead of trying to fix up the tree, we need to pull it.
Right.
So that's what we mean by that.
Awesome. So, back on the victimhood thing, it's really understanding that you're stuck in being a victim is another awareness piece on how to take the steps and move forward. Again, there's just so many stories I can think about. I try to tell stories so people can, some people listening to the podcast are going to be like, no, I never do that, or I never do that. Well, if I tell a story that hits home with them, they'll realize, oh, wait a second.
Well, it's kind of like the teenager.
Right.
I've got teenagers in my own house. We've
Right.
had this conversation over and over and over again.
All the time.
Where they are riled up to anger, and you can fully see it, and you're like, hey, your behavior is completely inappropriate. Well, you guys are ridiculous. They're fully justified in their anger, fully justified in their bad behavior, because I said no. So that it's when they step aside from that anger as well. We can talk about that, what anger does to your brain.
Right.
We can talk about that in a future podcast, because it alters you like crazy. Once they step aside from that, they kind of sober up a little bit. They come back and go, okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
Now, here's just a thought I had too. The whole victim mentality is really tied in some way or another to gossip. If you really think about it. Because when you're gossiping about someone, what you're really doing is saying something mean and nasty about someone, to someone else, right? So from a victim perspective too, it's blaming someone else for what you're going through, and it's your spin on things. So it could be correct, it could be incorrect, but you're really throwing the other person underneath the bus, and that's essentially what you do in gossip. So there's got to be, some tie-in between the two, and neither one of them are good for personal growth.
No, and we know that the people who are watching and listening to this right now, that they're getting an education because they don't do this at all. They don't have any clue what gossip is. They've never talked about anybody before. And you can tell this is totally soaked in sarcasm. So we've all done it. We've all done it before. And the more that we talk about other people rather than looking at ourselves, it just seats us square in that victim seat. And we can't emphasize it enough until you get out of that seat. And look at yourself in the mirror and see yourself for who you are. You know that you're not perfect. And that's one thing that this journey has helped me to do, is to give more grace to people.
Yeah.
Because when I see how broken I am, when I see what I'm really rooted in, I can't. How am I ever able to point a finger at somebody else and say, "Man, how wretched are they?"
Right.
because they struggle with that certain thing. My struggle is common to everybody.
Right.
And the way that I was able to recover was to own it, stop blaming other people for my behavior. And once I stopped blaming other people, I grew tremendously from that. So,
Well, and I have a really personal story that I'd like to share about victimhood and the victim mentality. It was about 5 years ago. I lost my next youngest brother to cancer. But the cancer actually was there because he was an alcoholic. And from a very young age, probably the age of 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there, he was picked on by bullies. And he probably would have considered his older brother as one of his bullies. And I'll probably take ownership of some of that. But he always looked at the world from that victim mentality. So it was always, oh, these guys bullied me as a kid, and that's why this behavior's there, and this is why I never got over that, and this is why I overreact to this, and this is how I overreact to that, and that's why I started drinking more to get over all this other stuff, right? So then the drinking showed up, and then there was the justification of the drinking, and then there was the justification to the police officer when he got his first DUI, and this process just continued on through his life where it became a cycle of thinking for him. Mm-hmm. It was always someone else's fault as to why he was broken.
yeah.
He moved in with my mom. It was probably 20 years ago and didn't work again the rest of his life because, of course, well, you know, the bullies when I was younger
Yeah.
hurt me so bad that I really can't operate in a workplace, that there could be a bully or whatever the excuse was. And he victimed himself right to a point where he passed away. And it was at, you know, near the end that he realized, wow, did I make a big mistake? And then I blamed everyone else for the stuff that I was doing, but I was doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see anyone in the audience go through the same thing, because it can get very deep-seated and cyclical, and you don't even realize you're there.
Yeah.
So be mindful when you're talking to people how you're talking to them. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like you're pointing a lot of fingers or blaming others, it might be worthwhile going through the 360 review we talked about and getting some awareness of that. And if you're there, view some of our future podcasts, and hopefully we can give you some information and some tools that you can use to move forward through this, because this really is a big thing.
Yeah.
You have anything else to add?
Well, just get out of the lazy boy, just like we talked about. Everybody quit slouching around and get out of the lazy boy. And a good exercise to do as we wrap this up, a good practical tool would be to take out a journal and journal this stuff. Start writing things down. Write down how many ways in your life throughout the course of your week and the course of your day do you make decisions based on what other people do. Because you'll be surprised how many ways you feel a certain way because somebody said something, or you made a decision because you were trying to impress some people. Right. And the farther away that you can get from that, the more freedom you're going to have. So thank you for joining us on this podcast. My name is Jason Mahr.
Gary Marco.
Thanks for joining us.
Take care.